So you don't like Tommy Robinson, well, you created it. Your cowardice and your failure to make arrests, your cowardice to tackle problems, the fact that you can't even name Islam, the fact that you won't give a voice to the British public, or you silence them, attack them and demonise them at every opportunity, created the character of Tommy Robinson.
Tommy Robinson shares his surprising views about Keir Starmer. Viewers are stunned. You're going to want to sit down for this, because something unexpected just hit the political conversation tonight. And honestly, the timing, the tone, the message, everything about it feels like the kind of moment that sparks a bigger conversation than anyone saw coming. Tommy Robinson has just spoken out about Keir Starmer in a way that caught absolutely everyone off guard. Not loud, not aggressive, not sensational, but calm, reflective, almost unsettlingly measured. And that's exactly why this is blowing up right now. Because when someone known for intensity suddenly shifts into a quieter, more thoughtful gear, people pay attention. While the headlines were all focused on the usual clashes in Parliament, something else was unfolding just beneath the surface. A moment of honesty, or frustration, or both, and it's now out in the open, igniting a wave of reactions across the country. Let's get straight into it. Robinson released a new message where he opened up about how he sees the direction of UK politics under Keir Starmer. For once, this wasn't about heated political battles or fiery disagreements. It was more personal, more reflective. Almost like he was speaking to millions of people who feel worn down, unsure, or disconnected from the political system they're expected to trust. He began by talking about leadership in general, saying that people today want clarity, authenticity, and a sense of connection. He argued that when political leaders speak in polished, carefully rehearsed lines, voters feel like they're being handled rather than heard. And whether you agree with him or not, that sentiment has been echoing across working-class communities for years now. At one point, Robinson said something that set social media ablaze within minutes. He said, "People want to feel understood, not managed." The sentence was barely 10 words, but it exploded online. TikTok clips stitched it into reaction videos. Twitter threads dissected it. Political commentators started debating whether this was simply Robinson's opinion, or whether it pointed toward a deeper national frustration that politicians have been ignoring. Then came the moment of suspense, a pause, a long breath, almost like he was deciding whether to continue. And that single pause created more tension than any raised voice could. He followed with, "There's a growing gap between what politicians say and what people feel. That gap gets wider every year, and no one seems to know how to close it." That statement wasn't an attack. It wasn't a claim. It wasn't an accusation. It was an observation, and that's why it hit so hard. Starmer supporters immediately pushed back online, arguing that the Labour leader has spent years trying to rebuild trust and offer stability. Critics, meanwhile, said Robinson was echoing what many feel but are too exhausted to say. And in the middle, millions of neutral viewers were simply listening, trying to figure out what to make of this sudden burst of emotional commentary. Political insiders jumped into the conversation too. One Labour staffer, speaking anonymously, told a London outlet, "This isn't about Tommy Robinson himself. It's about the feeling he's describing. People are tired. And that fatigue is becoming political." That comment alone shows how deeply Robinson's message touched the broader political climate. A senior Conservative advisor also weighed in, saying, "Every time someone speaks to raw public emotion, it creates a ripple. Whether that ripple becomes a wave depends on how leaders respond." That's the kind of comment that tells you this moment isn't being ignored behind closed doors. On social media, reactions came fast. One tweet read, "You might not agree with him, but he's saying what many feel." Another said, "Starmer needs to address the emotional disconnect, not just the political one." A third said, "I didn't expect to understand anything Robinson said, but some of this hits home." And then came the more dramatic reactions, long posts, commentaries, voice notes from people who feel exhausted with politics in general. People who don't see themselves in speeches anymore. People who want real talk, not political choreography. Now let's look at the bigger picture. For years, the UK has been shifting emotionally as much as politically. Cost of living issues, public services under strain, rising distrust, growing uncertainty. When Robinson talks about a gap between leaders and the public, he's describing something that almost every political analyst has mentioned at least once in recent years. Communities feel disconnected from decision-makers. Voters feel like their lived reality isn't reflected in national conversations. And tonight, Robinson's message poured fuel on that exact discussion. So what about Starmer himself? So far silence, no official response, no social media posts, no comment from Labour HQ. And that silence is becoming a story of its own. Some say Starmer is staying above the noise. Others believe Labour strategists are watching public reaction before saying anything. But the longer the silence stays, the more people start to wonder if this video struck closer to the public mood than expected. Political commentators warn that moments like this, even when they come from unexpected voices, can shift voter emotions in ways data cannot always measure. One analyst wrote, "Politics isn't just numbers and policies. It's emotion, trust, connection. When someone speaks directly to public frustration, it sends shockwaves." Another commentator added, "If leaders don't address emotional disconnection, they risk losing support long before the next election even arrives." So now the big question hangs in the air. What happens next? Does Starmer respond? Does he let the storm pass? Does his team rethink their messaging? Or does this moment fade only to return 10 times stronger later? Because if this video has shown us anything, it's that people are hungry for authenticity. They want answers, clarity, direction. And they want leaders who speak to them, not at them. The twist is, Robinson didn't attack Starmer. He didn't make claims. He didn't accuse him of anything. He offered a perspective. A perspective that, intentionally or not, exposed a raw emotional truth about the country itself. And the question now is simple. If this small message can stir the nation like this, what will the next moment bring?